Hello, everyone, and a wonderful Monday morning, and a great start to your week, I hope. Today, we're going to be talking about Bigfoot. Yay! Another Bigfoot story. But these encounters are of the friendly kind. You don't often hear about that. You often hear that they throw rocks or different things. Personally, I think they mostly throw rocks just to warn people, because if they really wanted to get them, they would get them, right? But we'll start off with one of the earliest encounters. I can't say the earliest encounter, because I'm pretty sure these Bigfoot have been going on for probably as long, just about as the Earth has been. Possibly, who knows. But this is still quite a bit back. It was in 986 AD. Yes, Leif Erikson and his men, when they first came to America, they saw what, let's see how they said it. They saw man-like beasts that were horribly ugly, hairy, and swarthy, and with great black eyes. He said they towered over him and his men. Of course, I don't know how tall the Vikings were back then. He said they lived in the woods and had a rank odor and a deafening shriek. It should be noted that Leif Erikson and his men described huge man-like beasts that were loud and foul smelling and clearly distinct from the native people. So, in other words, they weren't mistaking them for Native Americans. And did I have something else? They called them skill ring. I think that's what I had over there. Now, they are also noted, the Norsemen, the Vikings, for being hairy with beards and stuff. So if they are saying that these guys are hairy, then they're probably hairier than your average hairy. So most likely they were talking about Bigfoot. Yes, even all the way back then. Wow, right? Bigfoot has been around for, I'm guessing, way longer than that. But maybe even back in the Atlantis Lemurian days, who knows? And now for strange encounters of the friendlier kind. Now, I'm not saying one should go up to one or try to be friends with it necessarily. But these people found out that when you have a little heart, it goes a long way. After all, sugar is sweeter, and honey, as I say, honey is sweeter than vinegar. So, put the honey, the sugar. I'm not saying actually put the honey and sugar, even though I'm guessing they would like that. Yes, these people thought the best way to win over a Bigfoot is through their tummy. And guess what? They weren't really wrong there. So, let's see. The first one was in the Cascade Mountains, in the North Cascade Mountains. This happened about 2009. In between British Columbia and Washington State. He was he was scouting out an old mine in the mountains, and he came across a group of Bigfoot, big feet, however you say it. And they seemed at first shy. And he came there more than once. He started feeding them. Did he say, apples, carrots, cookies, and beef jerky, of course, and candy bars. My guess is they probably just about eat anything you feed them, but that seemed to work. And they would get closer and closer to him. The more he came. I think he said within, well, let's see what he says in his words, because here is his words. I gave them food, and they would sometimes they would eat it, right? And sometimes it is just they would stay, and they would just be for 5 or 10 minutes. And sometimes they would stay around him for hours. I have been as close as 20 feet to some of them. That's pretty close for a Bigfoot, right? They have human-like face, some with dark hair, others red, and others brown. Probably about 3 or 4 inches long. I'm assuming he means their hair. They stand between 6 to 7 feet tall and probably weigh around 500 pounds. Females being lighter, of course. The females have small breasts, for anyone who wants to know that. When I am alone, they come close to me. When I bring others around, they stay about 75 to 100 feet away. And females, obviously, come the closest to me. I mean, I would assume that would probably be true. The males are more, they're the warriors. And that was his story. Now, I don't know how long he went and kept on going. That was about 2009. This next story, I don't think it says the time frame. It's probably something like that. This is another former state trooper. And can I just say one thing real quick? These guys really have nothing to gain, especially being former state troopers. They're probably not wanting to put themselves out there and say, for people to think they're crazy. And they're not trying to gain anything from it. No notoriety or any such thing. In fact, most people probably haven't heard these stories, so they have nothing to gain from it. And another former trooper also has a similar story, but his is in Michigan. And he says that they seem to speak a type of language, like the Salish Native American. Let's see what he said. They would try to communicate with them, and anyone he would bring around. These ones were obviously a little bit less skittish, but sometimes they were. He says it would happen mostly at like around 3 a.m. I guess that's the time he would go out there. But sometimes they would be there during the daytime. And I think the other guy was during the day. When he went, he would also lead them food. And they would follow him, but sometimes sort of like where he couldn't see them, they would be falling behind, sort of like soldier fashion. My guess is, I don't think they necessarily were trying to jump him. If they wanted to, they would have. But they were still being cautious. Come on. At least they weren't trying to throw, get him, throw rocks at him. But that does happen. Because then he goes on to say that he brought some people with him. Then they start making whooping noise and throw a rock or so. But obviously, a warning. Because if they really wanted to get you, and especially if there's a whole group of them, even if there's one, they would. So, and then he started talking Salish. I'm assuming he's like native or something, and he knows this language. And they would just, especially the females, they would just start to smile and be shy. So, but one has to wonder, is a language like Salish their language? Or did someone, a Native American Salish tribe from ancient times, or sometime in the past, teach this group of Bigfoot the language? They obviously can learn that. And we have a story coming up which suggests exactly that. And by the way, he goes on to say, just real quick, I wanted to finish that story, that he eventually wanted to bring a video, to video them. But if you hold a camera up in their face, by your face, or a video, they shy away. So to anyone who's saying, these people are getting so close, why didn't they take pictures? First of all, a lot of them aren't out there probably for this reason. They didn't come purposely across them. This guy would like to get them on video, but they're shy. And you want to gain their trust, because all of a sudden you're flashing cameras and everything in them. You're probably gonna go backwards and not forwards, right? In the trust department. So they don't know the cameras aren't gonna attack them or get them, or But yeah. Then there's a man in Florida. Claims that he feeds. There was a couple of skunk apes on his property in Fort White, Florida, that he feeds potatoes and planktons. Sweet potatoes, and planktons. But my guess is they would eat anything. You see all these different people feeding them different things. So obviously, they don't have any particular. And then we have the woman in Avondale, Louisiana, and this was between 1964 and 1972. This woman, this blessed woman, was going on her property, and she lived in the swamps. And, like I said, Louisiana. So, she found an abandoned baby Bigfoot. Now, she doesn't know if his parents died, which I'm assuming they did, or abandoned him. I don't think it's likely they abandoned it, because that doesn't seem to be their, they seem to be very protective when it comes to their family. But you never know. It's probably more likely they were killed or died somehow. And she says that he was only about 20 pounds. And with a hairless face that didn't look human or like an ape or a monkey face. She says he was so little and so cute. I had to do something about it. Who wouldn't, right? It's the woman nurturing thing, but can I tell you, I'm pretty sure you guys out there would do the same, right? You couldn't just leave it out there. And he was so defenseless, laying there in the mud and water, and he was crying like a baby. So she said he accepted her as a friend right away, and that she took him home for 3 nights, fed him mostly tomatoes. I think she fed him other things. Obviously she fed him a lot of other things, I'm sure, but he especially liked tomatoes. And sometimes would just take them from her hand and just stick it all in his mouth at once. And then, yeah, he was well enough, and he wanted to return into the wilderness. But he came quite a few times throughout the years to visit her. And one time, and I'm assuming this is when he was, grown, he brought with him a friend. First, the friend was a little shy. But then she coaxed him. And by the way, she taught him to speak. I forgot that part. Before he returned in the wilderness, she taught him. Let's see where those words are. She taught him words like tomato. Right here it is. Tomato, food, hungry, and love. So. And he would speak these words. Here's my thing. They're very intelligent. And they can learn languages, obviously. So why aren't we more out communicating with them? Why are we so, I'm not saying you don't need to be cautious. Obviously, you do. You can't just go up and say, here I am, But I think that the Bigfoot would get along with humans if it didn't think humans were out to get them. Just saying. Okay. But then one day he stopped by with a friend. She eventually coaxed the friend, and she said there it was, 2 Bigfoot and I, sitting on my porch, eating under the moon. I love that picture. Can you imagine? Can you? How wild would that be? And that eventually she got, she was an older woman, obviously, and because of her age, she couldn't live by herself anymore. So she eventually had to go. But before she went, she taught a group of those Bigfoot. Obviously, more of them came, and she taught them to be wary of hunters and humans, not to trust them. I mean, generally speaking, it's kind of true, right? A lot of people out there want to just shoot one so they can say, "Look, I got one." Like they do the elephants and the great white hunters. They go to Africa and get all these trophies, or to prove out there to the world, "Hey, look." Then you wonder why they're afraid of cameras or video or humans. But anyway, and that's the stories I have. I thought that was nice for a change to have a Bigfoot story that's not like, and they were trying to get me. But anyway, I wish everyone a really wonderful Monday and start of your week, and be nice to Bigfoot, and Bigfoot will be nice to you. Over and out.